I want to get your opinion
Man,
on the mass genocidal psychosis that we've been seeing in our society. Um, if I would to say I'm thankful for one thing, it would be the fact that people see what I have been seeing as Zionist for the last few years, because Zionism is an ideology that has deeply disgusted me, and that's why it was one of my top litmus tests to the dismay of the progressive movement. I held Marianne Williamson's feet to the fire because Marianne Williamson used to say stuff like Israel has the right to defend itself, and a bunch of dumb leftists and progressives didn't understand that why that was problematic until the current trend. Now they understand. Now when someone say Israel had the right to defend themselves, they're like, "Oh, how dare you say that?" Meanwhile, Marianne Williamson was saying that all the time. I called it out, call her out, and then people was upset. People were like, "Oh, you guys are just implementing a purity test on people."
People can't grow. Like, I see if I was talking about a fucking 15, 16, you know what I'm saying? He's 20 years old. These motherfuckers old enough to be our granddaddies and grandma. No. You stuck in your ways, but you know what pays. Because if that was the case, then you would have been about free Palestine. I remember it was somebody had tweeted something to her about, what's going on in Palestine. It was a couple years ago, and she was like, I don't subscribe to that way of thinking or some bullshit like that. Like, come on, man. It's a 50-some-year-old
I remember
person.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
So
Go ahead, Nick.
I want you guys. I want to get John Wood's thoughts on this because this segment is going to be about John Fetterman and John Fetterman's genocide denial, and the same people who thought that RBN was malicious actors here to disrupt the progressive movement using purity tests as a weapon. I remember we had the dumbest critics. That was like what the Vanguard said. They use purity tests to drag down the progressive movement. I'm like, man, it feels good to have dumb critics, doesn't it?
It feels good to have power like that. Shit.
That's a good thing. I work with Patrick Arnold. You know what I mean? Like, not like they were saying, man, Nick is a right winger. He's in his position. No, our criticism that we get is that we use too much purity tests on people that have power.
Can you believe these people have morals? What you mean you don't want to fucking vote for my warmongering candidate?
And look, the thing that they can't beat you all with is that you all approach these issues with research. You got your facts down, you got your arguments, and that is what drives some of these people crazy. If you're all just running off at the mouth, they would have dismissed you a long time ago. But y'all come with y'all shit is tight, and that is problematic for folks, especially when they have to deal with sharp Africans. They don't know how to deal with it.
If we was dumb, they would promote us.
Yeah. You see what they did when we was working for Bernie? These are the same people who lift us up on the pedestal when we was working for Bernie Sanders. We was out there going door to door. Some of us quitting our jobs. And those same people throwing down that motherfucking pedestal as soon as you say, hold on, what the fuck? What you mean? Vote for Biden to save democracy. What democracy? Hold on, what you talking about, Bernie? Then everybody looking at you like, Rome, I can't believe that. I can't believe y'all shitting on Bernie Sanders after all that he didn't blah, blah, blah. Like, no, nigga, we don't, you know what I'm saying? We don't celebrate nobody. I don't see Bernie Sanders as a celebrity. He's supposed to be a mouthpiece for me. He's supposed to be my mouthpiece. I did not tell Bernie Sanders to go out there and say, vote for Joe Biden. I did not tell that man to compromise. I did not tell that man to sell out his email list. And yeah, he did all of it. I didn't say that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm pissed. They supposed to work for you. That's how it's supposed to go. But you see, you Americans are so stupid and brainwashed that you look at your politicians like celebrities now. So when they do something foul, when it finally gets to you, it breaks your fucking heart. And you just can't, well, I can't believe AOC would believe it, nigga. She a politician. What the fuck you talking about?
Yeah, I can't believe the West, sabotaged his campaign.
Yeah.
That's a shame, isn't it? That's a shame, isn't it? And on Rome's last point before I get back on the segment, you guys don't know, man. I had so many of these Bernie people that was asking me to run. Like after I was in South Carolina, so many people. I didn't want to do it. I was like, what the fuck y'all talking about? But there was after I left South Carolina, all the big Bernie people, Nina Turner, all of them in the campaign, they all followed me, and there was a big giant divorce And I told you guys, I spare you guys. I told this story many times. All these people, they blocked me, unfollowed me. Now they pretend I don't exist. They used to promote me. Like, for example, like Status Quo, Jordan Cheriton had me on this show talking about how all the good work that Nick is doing on the Bernie campaign. And all of a sudden, as soon as I divorced from the Bernie movement, we called Jordan out for voting for Joe Biden. All of a sudden, R being deplorable. Nigga, you just promoted me when I was on the Bernie campaign. That just one example. It happened many times. I don't talk about it often. But there was a massive divorce that I love that came from the Bernie movement because apparently I weaponized litmus tests, one of them being Israel-Palestine. I held our progressive leaders to a higher standard after Super Tuesday because I saw you guys fail. So I want to get your opinion on this before I go back to John Fetterman because he's a key part of this segment. But before I bring him up, I want to get John general thoughts on this mad genocidal psychosis that we've seen. Because look at this. You had 700 Palestinians that was killed in the last 24 hours after the humanitarian pause was lifted. One of the reasons why we called for ending the occupation because we knew that was going to happen. But look at this stat that kind of blew my mind. You know what I mean? That I pulled, I was like, what? Germany killed about 750 per day in Auschwitz. This is the Holocaust. That's crazy. Auschwitz, 750 people killed versus the 700 people dying per day in Gaza right now. But I want to get your general thoughts on that before we continue, Jamu. Anything you want to add? Your general thoughts on what Israel's doing?
What Israel's engaged in is racist genocide. And the very fact that it could be justified has to be a wake-up call to all of us who have an ounce of morality, and in particular for Black folks and indigenous people and Latinos, that basically what is being demonstrated in Gaza is that your lives don't matter. That basically the White Lives Matter more movement has demonstrated that, you know, they will shoot and kill and murder and justify it and have support in the white West. Now, some people get uncomfortable when you bring in these racial terms, but I make the argument, someone tell me that the scenes that we have witnessed, that first 24 hours, scenes of Palestinians running from their buildings as they're being blown up by the Israelis, if those were Russians or any other European population, not only would there be an outcry, it'd be people talking about sanctions and international criminal court prosecutions. It would be outrageous, okay? But because these are non-Europeans, their lives don't matter. And people need to understand that. This is what has helped to clarify the politics of the moment, okay? Absolutely. That these folks, these Europeans who see their hegemony slipping away, they have decided that they're going to jettison liberal values, that they're going to not worry about international law, that they are going to depend on one thing and one thing only, naked power. Okay, so yeah, this is incredible. I mean, the very fact that we are witnessing this genocide and the international community seems to be completely unable to stop it. It shows you where the real power is, and it shows you who the real threats are to global collective humanity.
Yeah, all I've been doing, and I'm glad to get your perspective, John Moo. I asked Mark Kimberly essentially the same question because all I have is race tweets. That's all I've been doing for the last week or two, trying to grasp what the hell we are seeing. We're seeing history, fam. Like, you guys see the numbers. We are witnessing, and I've seen a lot. I've been covering this for a long time. Margaret said as well. We've been covering it for a long time. Never seen anything like this. And just the disregard for Palestinian lives. Now, with that said, you want to know who one of the chief people who are guilty of this? Well, obviously the entire duopoly, but it's someone who was the progressive darling, someone who was deeply supported by Crystal and Kyle, by the Vanguard, by all these people who have a lot of mean things to say about RBN in our analysis as that was propping up this psychopath. So I know one way to tell if a politician is going to be a genocide supporting maniac. If they, I don't know, put a shotgun on a black jogger before, I'm just saying, I think the correlation there is kind of fucking, I think there's like a 90% chance that if someone pull a shotgun on a black jogger, there's a good chance this motherfucker will support genocide as a standard. And that's another thing they hate us for because we was there on the front line, CJ. I don't know how much you guys remember. Obviously, John and Mario and our great friends that fought for this as well. But the John Fetterman psyop, where they was like, "This is a new. We got a chance to get a new Bernie Sanders." Do you guys remember this? This bullshit that people was running.
He's a progressive.
You have like people like Mac, like who won like Kyle Kalinski's sidekicks, right? One of the people I had to break up with after I became critical of Bernie. You look what he says in retaliation to what John Fetterman genocide denial that I'm gonna show you here. Fetterman has completely obliterated all his credibility with the left in just 2 months. 2 months, bro. John Fetterman was very vocal about the fact that he was going to be supportive of Israel. So you guys see the progressives like Mac, Vanguard, and all these people, they're pretending that John Fetterman has a new heel turn. They did something they could not have seen coming. I know we told you guys support him on our channels. We use our platform to prop up this Zionist psychopath. It's not our fault. We could have never seen this coming. Meanwhile, at RBN and all the serious people, you want to know what I kept bringing up to people every opportunity I got.
He's a Zionist.
This receipt. And I remember the critique I got where people was like, "Oh, come on, man, why you guys using Israel Palestine? No one, of course, you're not gonna get someone who get Israel Palestine right." I remember that is the exact excuse.
You're not gonna find a perfect candidate. You're not gonna find a perfect candidate. Like, nigga, all I'm asking you is not to want genocide amongst people. What the fuck? I'm asking you not to be a sociopath, a psychopath, and that's too much.
And what it really boils down to, and I think you see it in the numbers when it comes to people of color, and if they support this, it bears out in the numbers. It really boils down to Black people feeling like this has a correlation or is similar, or it has similar points to what happened to our ancestors. Yep. And this is the reason why Nick is talking about how RBN was out in the front lines with this guy. This is the reason why we say marginalized people should be at the forefront. Because if marginalized people was at the forefront of the left, we would have avoided this guy right here. And but instead we have white progressives, aka neoliberals, who are, the biggest mouthpieces, and they talk the American left into this guy who is now supporting genocide and who is happily supporting genocide. It just speaks to what our Black radicals always told us. We have these people who are wolves in sheep's clothing. These people who are, I'm on your side and this and that. And look what they would have had us doing, Nick, if we followed the majority reports, if we followed our white progressive allies. Look what they would have had us doing. We would have blood on our hands for supporting people like this. But continue, sir. And that's an important point. That's why this shit drove me crazy. I'm going to do this victory lap for a very long time. Because you got to see Mac. He was a big Fetterman supporter. I know that. You got to know, white guy. Vanguard, white as hell. Kyle and Crystal, white as hell. They all were for the Vanguard, for Fetterman. And during that time, there was a bunch of Black leftists, including us, that say, this guy kind of pulled a shotgun on a black jogger. And then they got it mad at us. You had a dynamic where a bunch of white progressives who pretend they're woke were then shouting down Black leftists for criticizing a politician they want to see win an election. You guys know why I got a chip on my shoulder about this now? I'm never going to let these people forget about this. Because now I'm going to show you guys the video that has these people now turning on Fetterman. Now you got to see, and I'm going to get you in there, Ron. I know you want to chime in. I hear you. Yeah. You got to see how Max says he lost all credibility in just 2 months. And he eating well on Twitter. He got 2,000 likes. All the people don't know he pushed for Fetterman on his YouTube channel and on his Twitter account. That's why he said that
obliterate his credibility in 2 months. So you guys see how they get their audience to go through a storyline. You push a traitor first, and then once it becomes obvious that you can't politically get away with it no more, then you turn on the politician. Then you become the guy who's speaking truth to power. I'm calling this guy out. Even though you supported him, you gotta see what they do, because he getting a lot of likes for calling this guy out that he supported. Who was calling this guy out first? Who didn't get the credit, right? But yeah, Rome, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about him pulling out a shotgun, and these white leftists was apologizing to black people for this man. Like we haven't heard too much of it from him. We haven't heard too many apologies. We haven't, he haven't gave his family reparations, wherever the fuck they may have to go through, right? No, it's just a whole bunch of white leftists apologizing to black people for this man of why he's not racist. It might have just it's a heat of the moment type of thing.
It's even worse than that, because I remember covering it. You had Fetterman give a half-ass apology, and then white leftists accepted his apology on our behalf. That's a term I remember specifically using. Yeah, all these white leftists see John Fetterman apologize. It's over. And then meanwhile, Black Twitter was like, "No, it's not." Oh my god! Oh my god! You guys can't get over anything.
See this video.
Traumatizing this and see this 6 foot something skinhead, racist skinhead with a fucking shotgun in your face. Do you know how traumatizing that is for a black man? Come on now. Like, y'all don't like. That's why it's so easy to forgive and forget, because they would never ever they would never walk in our shoes, and they will never give a fuck. Never give a fuck about what we really have to go through, and they will always prop up these type of monsters, because look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, these are the same people that voted for Joe Biden, and we already know what the fuck he did to the black communities across America. The same one who prop him up and call him a hero for the black people. Right? Mm-hmm. But he continuously murdered black people across the world, deporting Haitians like it's nothing. They all look the other way though. But Trump in office, all eyes on the border now, right? Yeah, bull fucking shit. Y'all niggas don't give a fuck about us.
So now all the people who prop Fetterman up is now going ham at him, especially after this video. This video, people going after him. Let's watch it. Insanity from John Fetterman here, just straight up denying the death count that we're seeing, denying war crimes. I'd let it play here.
Civilian death toll that has happened as a result of this war. Do you believe that anything that Israel has done in these 6 weeks of fighting has amounted to a war crime?
Of course not.
Ask directly. Did Israel commit a war crime? And he said no.
No, of course not. Yeah, even worse.
Even worse, yes, even worse.
$200,000 said no.
That moment, that's the moment that's getting clipped. Everyone calling this moment. And all the people who propped up John Fetterman is going to pretend they never did. But let's play it, because now you're going to hear his rationale.
Has amounted to a war crime?
Of course not. Of course not. And it's like, let's not forget what Hamas started. They broke the first ceasefire, and then they attacked Israel and murdered over 1,200 innocent women, children, babies, everything, and brutalized it in the most unspeakable kinds of ways. And so that really is the ultimate, criminal war kinds of. This is absolutely an unequivocal attack to destroy Israel, and we must remember that that's how started all of this.
But are you comfortable, Senator, with the number of Palestinians who have lost their lives? 7,000 children, 15 or 16,000 civilians dead. Do you believe Israel is doing enough to minimize civilian casualties?
No. One death is too many. It's a tragic. I don't value any Palestinian child life any more than, or any less than, my own child as well too. It's heartbreaking and it's awful. But I do fundamentally believe that Israel must destroy Hamas to achieve long changing conditions that allow for peace to prosper.
I want to get a Jamu in here. but I said it before. When you look at the numbers, Israel has around a 97% civilian death rate.
Yeah.
You cannot credibly say that they're fighting Hamas. That's absolute scumbag behavior by John Fetterman. Anything you want to add? What's your general reaction to that, John?
It is morally indefensible and politically backward. And the very fact that he can utter those kinds of words, take that kind of position without an outcry from the public. Well, we say it's an outcry, but it should be an outcry, and he should be drummed out of the Senate for taking that kind of position. Clearly, he does not care about the lives of Palestinians. It's quite clear that the Israeli authorities have decided that their strategy is to engage in a process of collective punishment. For them, Hamas is not just the organization of Hamas, because they know and we know that there's other resistance groups in Gaza. But for them, the Palestinian people are Hamas. And when they talk about destroying Hamas, what they want to do is to destroy the Palestinian people. They want to terrorize them into ultimate submission. So the objective now for Israeli policy is to destroy the social infrastructure in Gaza, to terrorize the people in submission, to create a situation that's so terrible that they will finally be able to maybe get the Egyptians to allow the people to escape into Egypt. They want to depopulate Gaza. Mm-hmm. They want no claims on the oil and gas off the coast of Gaza. They want the population out of the way for the Ben Gurion Canal. They want to complete the process of expelling Palestinians, not only from Gaza, but remember now, we have to keep on reminding people, they are engaged in an intensified military assault on the West Bank, where there's no Hamas.
Yep.
The objective for this fascist government in Israel is to push the Palestinians out of what they claim to be as Israel. This is their policy. And the U.S. can stop this policy tomorrow if it wanted. The Israeli government is a vassal state. It is a state in which if the U.S. policymakers said, y'all got to chill, you can't go further, we're not going to allow you to go further, then it would be stopped. But they are making these public comments like they can't control the Israelis and they are in opposition to these fascistic policies. But we all know they've given them a green light.
That's just like Joe Biden talking about, hey, I might revoke some visas. Man, you ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna.
Where's the call for sanctions? Where's the call? Yeah. And not only that, you see, we got to keep these European states feet to the fire, and even some of the states that some people consider to be friendly. This should be raised every other day within the context of the United Nations Security Council.
Yes.
Where are the Russians and the Chinese on this issue? Okay, there's a thing called universal jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Okay, when you have these kind of criminal activities and criminals, yeah, a state can exercise its own law to capture and prosecute these international criminals. These are criminals we are watching on front of our face. The slaughter of Palestinians, genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes. You know, where's the International Criminal Court? These people are never going to be able to reverse the credibility, the loss of credibility they have. Never again.
But this is what you guys know that Israel killed 100-something UN members, and that right there is a war crime. How can he sit there, even if you wanted to say no war crimes against Palestinians, but something, we had a miscalculation with the UN members or wherever it may be. Doctors Without Borders, like, come on now, that's not a war crime. Killing these people, bombing schools, churches.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that is just sick.
You have Israel that killed more kids in 4 weeks than Putin was accused of kidnapping in Ukraine. Let me repeat that. Israel killed, with the capital K, killed more Palestinian children in 4 weeks than Putin was accused of kidnapping in Ukraine. How can you say, with your soul intact, that there's no genocide?
I think another way of looking at that too, another stat to quote is that in 4 weeks, more civilians were murdered in Gaza than lost their lives in 19 months in the proxy war in Ukraine.
Yep.
And the Israelis have said in public, it's their policy basically to engage in collective punishment and to target these civilians. There should be no ambiguity when it comes to whether or not there's war crimes and crimes against humanity. Except one for the Europeans and one for everybody else.
My apologies
we can shut
for
off
that.
your water, we can shut off your electricity, and it still won't be a war crime. Ain't that about a bitch?
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of piggyback on what all of you have been saying about what's happening in Israel, and you're seeing with all the protests and everything, you're seeing them kind of say things here and there in support or supposedly support of Palestine. I just want to get your reaction of what Austin, what's his name? Secretary Austin says here about the strategy about them killing all of these Palestinians and what's going to result if Israel doesn't change. And I'm curious to know, because everybody's saying this is a big deal that he's saying this, and I'm curious to know your reaction to this and if it's a big deal you think.
This kind of a fight, the center of gravity is the civilian population. And if you drive them into the arms of the enemy, you replace a tactical victory with a strategic defeat. So I have repeatedly made clear to Israel's leaders that protecting Palestinian civilians in Gaza is both a moral responsibility and a strategic imperative. This kind of a fight.
So if you watch cable news analysis of this, this is a huge deal. Strategic defeat. He didn't say that it's a possibility. He is saying it's a defeat. And this person who posted it also says there's no overstating how extraordinary such a statement by the Secretary of Defense warning Israel it's heading towards a strategic defeat. Do you also see it as this sort of huge thing that they're kind of making it out or painting it out to be? And what's your reaction to what he says? And do you think the U.S. really means what he's saying in these words here?
I think that I think he means what he's saying, but I think it is for PR purposes primarily. That basically that was and should have been, it was communicated to them, weeks ago, but not in those kind of terms. They gave a green light to what they thought was going to be a quicker incursion into Gaza and a destruction of the military wing of Hamas. I don't think they understood the extent to which the Israelis were going to engage in this kind of indiscriminate bombing that they have been engaged in. And they didn't believe that the numbers would increase in the way they increased. But even more importantly, because they operate from what I call the psychopathology of white supremacy, they thought that they can do this and get away with it. But they lost the narrative. They didn't anticipate the response globally to this invasion. And once they realized that the Israelis were dragging them down this rat hole in terms of undermining U.S. credibility also, they wanted to pull back, but they're already so far down that rat hole they couldn't climb out of it. So this is the beginning of the public distancing that the administration wants to pretend to engage in. The proof of the pudding is to what extent do you see a change in U.S. tactics? If they're concerned about the escalation of civilian death, then you will see a shift in tactics. We have not seen that. So this we have to surmise is more PR than anything else.